Welcome. This is Uncommon Sense, a podcast presented by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The Center is an initiative of the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the Chartered Professional Accountant profession in Alberta. Our episodes feature conversations with Alberta CPAs sharing their insights on a wide range of timely topics. Alberta CPAs work in every part of the economy and volunteer their time and expertise in virtually every community in Alberta. With each episode, we bring you voices and perspectives that reflect the diverse knowledge and contributions that CPAs bring to our province. Hello, I'm Jessica DeGroot, manager of the CPA Education Foundation, and I'm happy to welcome you to the first episode of the summer edition of Uncommon Sense. Our podcast team is taking a summer break from recording new episodes, so over the next 6 weeks or so, we'll be bringing you some highlights from our 2025-26 season. And to start off this summer series, we've put together a compilation of particularly memorable pieces of uncommon sense that our guests have provided over the past year. If you're a regular listener of our podcast, you know that we start off each episode by asking each guest to share a piece of wisdom, advice, or a life hack that they've learned over the years. We were never disappointed with the uncommon sense that our guests passed on to us. From the merits of stargazing to the value of listening, the nuggets of insight we heard were always memorable, relevant, and smart. So let's take a trip back to listen again to some of those insights. Speaking of listening, our first highlight is about why being a good listener is important. This reminder came from Cheryl Gibson, who definitely knows the value of listening. Cheryl is a CPA and a lawyer. She's also one of Canada's most celebrated competitive swimmers, the winner of several Olympic, Pan Am, and Commonwealth Games medals, along with dozens of Canadian national titles. Here's Cheryl talking about why we should never stop listening.
Well, the one thing I always told my kids was to listen to whatever somebody has to say, and then you can analyze and decide whether you think it's worth keeping or tossing. But you have to keep your mind open and listen first.
The next piece of uncommon sense I want to replay is from Dr. Sharif Elbarad, an Edmonton-based CPA who is also Dean of the School of Management at Concordia University in Edmonton. Sharif was a guest back in September when he spoke about the connection between commitment and confidence.
I believe one piece of uncommon sense is sometimes commitment comes before confidence. So when you commit yourself to something and push yourself outside of your comfortable zone, you feel that you have more strength and you get more strength. And at the same time, you get creativity to accomplish what you have done. I recall when I did my PhD in Germany a long time ago, in the early 90s, I didn't know German, but I committed myself, and then I found myself having the strength to learn German, and until I mastered it.
Okay.
At a point in time. Now, not anymore.
So do you still speak German?
I still speak German, but I need to practice in order to be fluent again.
Speaking of commitment, here's a clip from our discussion with Mark Siderson, whose career and record of volunteerism exemplify what commitment means. Mark joined us last August to talk about his community-oriented service and his time as a leader and mentor. As we'll hear, he does all of that by first making sure he puts on a smile every morning.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning I left because as I leave my house in the morning, we have a small mirror, not a big mirror, and a sign that says happiness. And we just make sure when we leave the house, we've got our smiles on, we're happy, ready to attack the day. And then we make sure that we always try to be a linchpin. I think that's my main tool that I try to embark on every day, is to make sure I try to make a difference and try to fill gaps and voids where other people aren't.
Next up with some uncommon sense is Darcy Yamada. Darcy is a senior leader at EY Parthenon and serves as vice chair of CPA Alberta. On his episode of Uncommon Sense, Darcy shared his thoughts about being the best version of yourself. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I'd say a life hack, Aaron, that ties into this conversation that has really helped me is just to try to be the best version of myself, to be true to who I am and to my personality. I think early in my career, I was told to be more aggressive, for example, and I tried to do that, but I didn't really act in a way that was really me, and it backfired on me. And so what I've learned along the way is that I can be assertive, when I need to be, for example, but by being more authentic in the moment, I can be more effective and get to a better outcome.
Next, we'll hear from two Sarahs. The first is Sarah Vauden, a CPA and partner at Hendrickson Black LLP in Whitecourt, Alberta. Her piece of uncommon sense focused on the merits of treating your household like a business.
One of the best pieces of advice I've received is to treat my household like a small business itself. So my husband and I started monthly money meetings back when we were newly dating, still common law. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, it was stressful and awkward at first, but it's become one of our core practices. We have it in our family calendar even.
Oh, I love that. I feel like that's such CPA advice.
Yeah. We love it because as a typical accountant, we look backwards and check out our spending for the past month, our credit card charges, cancel outdated subscriptions, things like that. Mm-hmm. But we also put a focus on our 5 and 10-year goals. And even though my husband is not an accountant, he shares my love of Microsoft Excel.
Okay.
And he has really beefed up our spreadsheet to include investment growth and debt repayment along those 5-year and 10-year benchmarks.
Now we'll turn to Sarah Huber, a CPA with WestJet in Calgary, who's also a former professional dancer and longtime volunteer in Calgary's arts sector. Sarah's piece of uncommon sense revolves around asking, why not? Let's hear what she means by that.
It's not maybe the most uncommon piece of advice, but something that has definitely kind of propelled me throughout my education as well as my career is just why not, or what's the worst that can happen? So I just firmly believe that a lot of what I've been able to accomplish and where I've kind of landed myself was just due to not doubting myself and that mindset of, you can't win if you don't even enter the race. So just why not kind of try?
Taking time to look at the stars is the subject of our next speaker's Uncommon Sense clip. Alex Goulet was the only guest we had in 2025-2026 who isn't a CPA. She is the observatory technician at the Hesje Observatory at the Augustana College campus of the University of Alberta. This observatory is named after the late Brian Hesje, whose gift to the CPA Education Foundation made this podcast possible. Let's listen to Alex talk about stargazing.
My uncommon sense is maybe common sense to anybody in my field, anybody who's into astronomy and into space. But for those who are not particularly into it, but are interested in it and want to maybe look into it a little bit more, my kind of uncommon sense piece of advice for them is to head out somewhere dark, somewhere outside of the city lights, and take a look up. You don't need any kind of telescope or fancy equipment to enjoy meteor showers or northern lights shows or planet alignments or anything like that. A lot of people think you need expensive equipment to enjoy space, but you absolutely do not.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I feel like we're also very blessed here to experience a lot of cool things like the Northern Lights and things that people in other places of the world don't get to see very often.
Yeah, absolutely. People travel to Edmonton just to see the Northern Lights pretty often.
By the way, you can see some amazing photos of space taken by the Hesje Observatory team on their Instagram account. Just search for Hesje Observatory. That's Hesje. Let's go back now to December 2025. That month, we featured 2 episodes with guest Ryan Gubick, CPA, CGA, and founder of MRG Wealth Management in Calgary. Ryan's episodes focused on the topic of investing, though his piece of uncommon sense related to much more than simply investing. Here's Ryan talking about why today is a good day to start something important.
So one of the pieces of advice or wisdom I've picked up along my journey over the years relates to so many areas of our lives. And it does tie in a bit to investing, but it ties into health and relationships and so many other areas. And that is, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So whatever it is that you're thinking about doing or wishing you have done earlier, remember, you can't change the past, but the best option you have is available to start today.
Next, we'll hear the insights of two Alberta CPAs who are also a married couple. First, we'll hear from Chioma Ufadike, a distinguished CPA, business leader, mentor, and public speaker. Chioma's words of wisdom revolve around the risks of making assumptions. The voice you'll hear after Chioma belongs to Eiko Ufadike, a noted accounting professor, educator, and former provincial deputy minister. Eiko speaks about the concept of growing sideways. Here are Chioma and Eiko.
A piece of uncommon sense that I would say is literally that common sense is not common, right? At first glance, you would think that, everybody has common sense. It sounds like something everyone should naturally possess. But I think what feels obvious to one person may completely be unfamiliar with somebody else, right? And I think that perspective has helped shape, how I think about leadership, which simply means you can't just rely on assumptions.
Right.
You have to set, clear expectations, recognizing that people interpret information differently. So leaders make unspoken spoken, and they assume explicit because common sense is simply not common.
My advice would be to be open to growing sideways. So quite often, early career professionals think of growth as being, professional growth as being a hierarchy, right? Like being promoted into a different role. From my experience, I got quite a bit of growth by taking on other lateral roles that might have come with increased responsibility or a different scope of challenges. And ultimately, at the right time, I was able to harness all of those lateral roles into more senior roles. So my advice would be that sometimes we grow sideways, not necessarily upwards.
That was Chioma and Eiko Ufadike. It's worth highlighting that Chioma and Eiko recently teamed up with the accounting firm of MNP to create and fund one of the CPA Education Foundation's newest scholarships, the MNP and Ufadike Business Award of Excellence for Black post-secondary students. You can hear them talk about the purpose of this award on their episode of Uncommon Sense from February 2026. Another episode from February featured Patrick Moore, a partner with MNP, that firm that Chioma and Eiko partnered with to create their award. In addition to being a CPA, Patrick is also a longtime participant in Olympics and Paralympic sports, having served as the wax technician for several competitive cross-country ski teams. His uncommon sense insight revolved around why it's good to be uncomfortable occasionally. Let's hear from Patrick.
I think a piece of uncommon sense is that sometimes it's okay to be a little uncomfortable in your life. It's okay to operate outside your comfort zone and feel like you're in just a little bit over your head. I think when you're doing that, it's helping you grow, it's helping you progress. And if it doesn't feel that way sometimes, probably things are just getting a little stagnant and stale, and you've got some opportunities there.
Absolutely. And is there an area where you've recently felt that way in your life?
Oh man, being a CPA in a public practice accounting firm, I think every day and every week that comes up. You never know what you're going to deal with. You never know what assistance your clients are going to need. And so it's something that you're dealing with all the time.
In March of this year, we had a really interesting conversation with CPA Jim Sand of Onaway, Alberta. Jim is a business leader, entrepreneur, and senior accountant with a record of service to numerous First Nation organizations across Alberta. Jim has also been a mentor, and on his episode, he spoke about why mentorship is valuable to both the mentee and the mentor. Here's Jim.
From my perspective, like right through from high school as a young fellow, I've always looked for mentors. Didn't matter what I was doing, whether I wanted to learn to ride horses, whether I was playing hockey, later on in life in my career and where I wanted to head. I've always looked to mentors, finding people that were doing what I wanted to do and then learning from them. And then, of course, throughout my career, I've mentored a few people as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I think that's so important no matter what you're doing in your life to have a mentor and then to pay it back when you have the opportunity to help someone else along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And with CPA Alberta, a couple times I've mentored people in the profession that wanted mentorship, and I've been involved in the program. But I've also just done it organically. Like if someone asks questions or something, I always offer my time to help someone out because people have offered their time to help me out.
The final clip of this special compilation episode comes from Deepa Mitimani, a CPA, artist, author, and mentor. Deepa's talents stretch across a wide and diverse range of activities and interests. And as she notes in this clip, it's always important to be learning new things, even if one of those new things is learning to say 6, 7.
I love that question. I think my uncommon sense advice is coming from a country song. It says, "When was the last time you did something for the first time?" I think when we were kids, we are constantly exploring, trying new things, just learning, being curious about things. I don't know what happens when we just grow up and get stuck into doing things as is, and life gets boring. So I think just keeping that learning antenna on constantly is my uncommon sense for the readers. And it doesn't have to be like a rocket science learning. Mm-hmm. It could be just like try a new recipe or, I'm learning the Gen Z lingo these days, how to say 6, 7 or when to say it. That is, life just becomes joyful when you're in learning mode.
That concludes our Best of Uncommon Sense episode. We hope you enjoyed this compilation of wisdom from a variety of Alberta CPAs. Over the next few weeks, we'll be replaying some notable Uncommon Sense episodes from the past year or two. I hope you'll listen in and catch any episodes that you might have missed. We'll be back with all new episodes of Uncommon Sense in late August. Until then, the CPA Education Foundation wishes all of our podcast listeners a safe and happy summer. The Uncommon Sense podcast is presented by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshi CPA Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center was created through a generous donation by the late Brian Heshi. Brian was a distinguished Albertan, business leader, CPA, educator, and community builder. His generosity and commitment to education underpinned his good works across Alberta throughout his lifetime. The opinions expressed on Uncommon Sense do not necessarily reflect the views of the CPA Education Foundation. We would like to acknowledge that CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories and Métis Nation homeland. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous people and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. Technical and recording services for this podcast provided by Wolf Willow Studios in Edmonton. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments about the podcast, write to us at cpaef@cpaalberta.ca. To learn more about the CPA Education Foundation and the Heshe CPA Knowledge Centre, visit cpaalberta.ca/foundation. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for the CPA Education Foundation.